This doctor believes that death is not the annihilation of the human mind. Consciousness continues. Even when brain is dead and secret to reverse death. Imagine if death wasn't the end. What if consciousness continued to exist even when the brain had shut down? This isn't a plot from a sci-fi movie. It's the groundbreaking belief of Dr. Sam Parnia, a leading researcher in resuscitation science and near-death experiences. He suggests that our minds don't simply vanish when we die, and the latest research in medical science could prove it. Dr. Parnia, an associate professor at NYU Langone, has spent years studying what happens after death. His research is changing the way we understand life, consciousness, and the thin boundary between existence and the unknown. His studies focus on near-death experiences, NDEs, and the ability of the brain to survive longer than previously thought after the heart stops beating. Most of us assume that when the heart stops, life ends instantly. But Dr. Parnia's research challenges this idea. According to his findings, death isn't an immediate event, it's a slow biological process. Even after the heart stops, brain cells don't die right away. They can remain active for hours or even days, meaning that consciousness may continue even when a person is declared clinically dead. Dr. Parnia has studied countless cases of people revived after cardiac arrest, and the results are astounding. Many of these individuals report clear, detailed memories of events that happened while they were clinically dead. Some recall floating above their bodies, seeing doctors work on them, or even witnessing things that should have been impossible for an unconscious brain to perceive. One of the most astonishing revelations comes from a recent study involving 567 patients whose hearts stopped while hospitalized. About 20% of those who survived described vivid experiences of separation from their bodies, observing their surroundings, and even having a life review where they re-experienced major moments from their lives. What's even more fascinating is that brain scans detected bursts of activity, suggesting that the mind was still functioning even after medical death. For centuries, the question of what happens after death has been left to religion and philosophy. But Dr. Parnia believes that this is a scientific question, one that we now have the tools to explore. He argues that consciousness may exist separately from the brain, much like a signal exists apart from a television. Some scientists and philosophers have started to question whether our brains simply act as receivers for a greater field of consciousness. Dr. Parnia isn't just studying what happens after death, he's also working on ways to reverse it. Advances in resuscitation techniques, cooling the body to preserve brain function, and even AI-driven medical interventions could mean that death, as we know it, may one day be reversible. He's already documented cases where patients were revived after being clinically dead for hours, cases that challenge everything we thought we knew about human survival. For years, scientists believed that consciousness was simply a byproduct of brain activity. But new discoveries are changing that view. Dr. Eben Alexander, a Harvard neuroscientist, once believed consciousness was just an illusion of the brain until he had a near-death experience himself. He now argues that consciousness exists beyond the brain and that science has yet to understand its true nature. Even atheists and materialists are beginning to reconsider the idea that consciousness ends at death. The topic of near-death experiences, once dismissed as hallucinations, is now taken seriously by researchers trying to unlock the mysteries of existence. Dr. Parnia believes that modern medicine is on the verge of a revolution, one that could change our entire understanding of life and death. The idea that we might be able to bring people back after hours of clinical death raises profound questions. Are we declaring death too soon? What happens to our consciousness in those moments between life and death? Could we one day routinely revive PO play who have been considered gone? Dr. Parnia's research forces us to confront one of the greatest mysteries of all time. Is death really the end? Or is it just the beginning of something even greater? As science continues to push the boundaries of life, consciousness, and the human mind, one thing is becoming clear. We may not be as limited by death as we once believed. Leave us your thoughts in the comments section.